Hello everyone and welcome to Module 3. For Module 3, we are talking about 3 chapters. We're going to be talking about Chapter 14, which is discussing the endocrine system, Chapter 15, which is discussing the nervous system, and Chapter 16, which is discussing special senses. So let's get into it. To begin with, we're going to talk about Chapter 14, and that's going to be talking about the endocrine system. Now, the main and primary function of the endocrine system is to produce specialized chemicals called hormones. These hormones are secreted into the bloodstream and travel to specific tissue or organs of the body. The endocrine system also maintains an internal state of equilibrium or homeostasis. The glands of the endocrine system include the pituitary gland, which is a pea-sized organ located at the base of the brain and is also known as the master gland because it regulates many of the body activities and stimulates other glands to secrete their own hormones. We have the thyroid gland, which is the largest gland in the endocrine system. It is H-shaped or butterfly-shaped and is located at the neck just below the larynx. With the thyroid, we also have the parathyroid, and this consists of 4 separate glands located on the posterior or back side of the lobes of your thyroid gland. The adrenal gland, these are paired organs covering the superior or top surface of your kidneys. The pancreatic or pancreas, this also functions as an exocrine gland as well as an endocrine gland. So endocrine is going to go right into your bloodstream. Exocrine is going to go through like your GI tract. So with the exocrine role, it carries digestive secretions from the pancreas to the small intestine through the large pancreatic duct. And the endocrine role is that the pancreas secretes 2 other hormones, which are known as glycogen and insulin, which are important for patients who are diabetic. We also have the pineal gland. This is shaped like a pine cone, and it is located at the posterior or back part of the 3rd ventricle of the brain. This gland produces melatonin, which helps with your circadian rhythm to help you sleep at night. We also have the thymus, ovaries, and testes. So for this one, these are some common abbreviations that you're going to see within the endocrine system. Most of them are related to hormones of some kind. However, ACTH is probably the one that is going to be one of the most important. That is produced by your adrenal cortex, so that adrenal gland with the kidneys. ADH is produced in the kidneys. LH and FSH are produced in the ovaries and testes. TSH, T3, and T4 are all produced by the thyroid. Now, this chapter does go on to discuss diseases of the endocrine system, but I'm going to leave that for you to read upon. When it comes to the endocrine system, the word parts that are going to be really important for you to know are adeno or adeni, depending on how it is notated with the suffix. It means of or relating to a gland. Adreno means of or relating to an adrenal gland. So that's the difference between adeno and adreno. If it has the R in it, it's relating specifically to the adrenal glands. If it does not, it's just relating to a gland. Calco, which is relating to calcium. The suffix crin means to secrete. The suffix dipsia means thirst. Glyco means sugar. Glyco is glucose. Glycol is sugar. Cali is relating to potassium. Natro is sodium. Thyroid is thyroid. Thymo thymo is thymus. Now, obviously, there's a lot more that goes into chapter 14, but I'm, again, going to leave that for you guys to look at. Chapter 15 is talking about the nervous system. And in my opinion, the nervous system is one of the most complicated systems in the body, both in structure and in function. The nervous system senses physical and chemical changes in the internal and external environment. It will process them and then respond to them to help maintain homeostasis. It will do voluntary activities like walking, running, or talking, but it will also do involuntary activities like digesting food, pumping our hearts for circulation, making our lungs expand for breathing. All of that is done without our knowledge or our consent. Now, when we discuss the nervous system, we have to look at the cellular structure of the nervous system. The nervous system is completed of two principal cell types, and together they make up the nervous system and the nervous tissue in our body. The first one is neurons. They transmit impulses and are identified by their direction of how the impulses travel. So if the travel is efferent, A-F-F-E-R-E-N-T, is when the direction is toward the brain and spinal cord, so essentially going up. If it's efferent, E-F-F-E-R-E-N-T, it's away from the brain and spinal cord. So afferent will carry it up to the brain and spinal cord. The brain and spinal cord will make a decision, and then efferent will bring it back down and take it out to the other cells of your body. Neurons have three major structures: a cell body, an axon, and a dendrite. We also have the other cellular structure of a neuralgia. They are cells that are supported by the neurons and bind them to other neurons or tissues. They do not transmit an impulse, but they provide a variety of activities essential to the proper functioning of a cell. The term neuralgia means nerve glue, and there are four main types of neuralgia, which are astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, microalgia, and epiderma. There are two major nervous systems in our body. They are the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. This system has nerve tissue that is classified as either white or gray matter. And the brain is one of the largest organs in the body, and it is highly complex, again, in structure and in function. It is responsible for almost every physical or mental activity. It is the center for memory, emotions, thoughts, judgment, reasons, and consciousness. And there are four major structures in the brain: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the diencephalon, and the brainstem. The spinal cord transmits sensory impulse information from the body to the brain and a motor impulse from the brain to the muscles and organs of the body. The sensory nerve tracts are called ascending tracts because they go upward, and motor nerve tracts are called descending because they go downward. We also have the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system consists of 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. It consists of sensory neurons, which will carry impulses from the body to the central nervous system, meaning they are afferent, A-F-F-E-R-E-N-T, and the motor neurons, which carry impulses from the brain and spinal cord to the muscles and the glands of our body, which is efferent, E-F-F-E-R-E-N-T. The cranial nerves originate at the base of the brain and emerge through the openings of the base of the skull. Spinal nerves emerge from the intervertebral spaces in the spinal column and extend to various locations in the body. So, as if this system isn't confusing enough, the peripheral nervous system breaks down even further into what we call the somatic and autonomic autonomic nervous systems. So we just discussed that the peripheral nervous system has 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. But this makes up the somatic nervous system. So the somatic nervous system is where muscle impulses transmit to other muscles under conscious control. So motor impulses will transmit to glands and muscles not under our conscious control, and those belong to the autonomic. So think about it this way. With the somatic nervous system, you are controlling it, is what we call our voluntary nervous system. You are making that action happen. Walking, talking, shaking hands, dancing, whatever that is, you're doing that work. The autonomic is what we do not control. So digesting our food, making urine, pumping our hearts, making our blood flow, all of that. And again, as if that's not enough, the autonomic nervous system breaks down one more time into what we call the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. The sympathetic division regulates our body activities when an immediate action is required. So it will increase your heart rate, deepen your breathing, and strengthen your muscles. The sympathetic is what we call our fight or flight response. Parasympathetic is the division that decreases the rate and the intensity of the process. It's also called the rest and digest stage. So typically after a traumatic event, when your somatic nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system kicks into gear, so your fight or flight goes off, after you have walked away from that situation and you're now starting to feel like the decompression, that's when your parasympathetic is going into play. All right, some word parts that you're going to come in contact with when it comes to the nervous system. The first one is cephalo. That is pertaining to the head as a whole. Cerebello is pertaining to the cerebellum. Cerebro is pertaining just to the brain, as well as encephalo is pertaining to the brain. Gillo is a nervical tissue. The suffix lepsis or lepsia is referring to an attack or a seizure. Word part lexo is referring to words, typically spoken words. Meningo is your meninges. Mylio is pertaining to bone marrow or the spinal cord, and we've talked about that one before. Narco is numb or sleeping. And nerve is pertaining to the nerves of the nervous system. We also have, again, nerve or nervo or nervi, again, pertaining to nerves or the nervous system. The suffix paresis is discussing a slight paralysis. Fenri or fenro is referring to your mind. Suffix plagia means paralysis as well. Plexia means a stroke or seizure. And then you have your word parts psyche or psycho, which is pertaining to the mind, and schizo, which is denotating something being split or even doubled in size. All right, and our last chapter is chapter 16. So the general sensations perceived by the body include that of touch, pressure, pain, and temperature. These sensations are not identified with any specific site of the body. Specific sensations include smell, taste, vision, hearing, and equilibrium. Each is specific to a specific organ or structure of the body, but this chapter will discuss those related to the eyes and the ears. So the eyes are related to and regard your vision. Ears will be regarding your hearing or your equilibrium. The eye is a globe-shaped organ composed of 3 layers of distinct tunics or layers. The first one is the fibrous tunic. This is the outermost layer of your eyeball, and it serves as a protective coat for more sensitive structures that are beneath. This layer will include your sclera, cornea, and conjunctiva. The sclera is the white part of your eye. The cornea is one of the few body structures that does not contain any capillaries, but must rely on the eye fluids for nourishment. The conjunctiva covers the outer surface of the eye and lines the eyelids. The second tunic is the vascular tunic. This is what we call the middle layer of your eyeball, but we also call it the uvea. This consists of the choroids, iris, and cellular body. The choroids provide the blood supply for the entire eye. The iris is the colored contractile membrane with the perforated center called the pupil. And the cellular body is the circular muscle that produces the aqueous humor. The final layer is the sensory tunic. This is the innermost layer, and it is delicate and double-layered retina. The retina is responsible for the reception and transmission of visual impulses to the brain. It has 2 types of visual receptors, rods and cones. Rods function in dim light and produce black and white vision, where cones function in bright light and produce our color vision. The ear is the sense receptor organ for 2 senses, hearing and equilibrium. Hearing is the function of the cochlea, which is the snail-shaped structure filled with fluid called the perilymph. Equilibrium is the function of the semicircular canals and the vestibule. The ear consists of 3 major sections: the outer ear, the middle ear, which is also called the tympanic cavity, and the inner ear, which is the labyrinth. The outer ear consists and conducts sound waves through air, the middle ear through the bone, and the inner ear through fluid. The inner ear consists of a system of fluid-filled tubes and sacs, as well as nerves that connect to the structures of the brain. It looks like a maze, therefore was given the name labyrinth. It rests inside the skull bone and not only includes the cochlear system, which is denoted for hearing, but also the vestibular system, which controls balance and eye movements. So some of the word parts that you're going to hear is akuso, which is pertaining or relating to hearing. The suffixes akusis or kusa means hearing. Eri is pertaining to the ear. Blepharo is your eyelid. Cor or coro is all pertaining to the eye's pupil. Dacry, which is a tear. Irido is iris. Myringo is eardrum. Oculo is pertaining to the eye, as well as ophthalmo. The suffix opia means vision. We also have optic, which is pertaining to the chemical properties of the eye. Suffix opsia, which is vision. Oto, which is pertaining to the ear. Phaco, which is lens or shape, and tympano, which is your eardrum. Now, one of the other things that are going to be some additional help for stuff this week is going to be these abbreviations. On your course project this week, it does talk about medications. So some of the ones that are really important are going to be the ones that you find here in this middle section. So it's probably not a bad idea to know what those are, probably make some flashcards for them, because things like BID, TID, and QID are something you'll see very, very often. As well as, OD or QD, which means once a day, and then different types of vaccines. So you have your subcutaneous SQ, intramuscular IM, intradermal ID, or intravenous IV. All right, so to wrap this up, let's talk about what your homework is for the week. So your initial discussion board is going to be due on Tuesday, April 18th. Please make sure that you are looking back at previous ones that have been graded so you can get the feedback from the previous week, so that way you can move into the next week with a good foundation. And you'll need to reply to at least one classmate, preferably two, by Saturday, April 22nd at midnight. You have another dictation assignment. Again, looks like a quiz, but it is not a quiz. That's going to be due Sunday, April 23rd. Your course project this week is on medical histories. Again, I would highly recommend going back, looking at your Module 2 graded course project. Look at the feedback I gave you. All of the highlighted areas will tell you what you got wrong and what the correct answer is. You also have another quiz this week, due Sunday, April 23rd. And then the live classroom assignment, if you are able to watch it, great. It's going to be Tuesday, April 18th at 1 p.m. If you're not, please make sure that you are watching the recording and looking for that code question. That will also be due Sunday, April 23rd. All right, guys, I hope that you all have a good week 3, and I hope to see you all in live lecture. Bye-bye.